Hello everyone, I'm MVL and in this video we will be unboxing Gley Collector's Edition for the Mega Drive and Genesis. We'll be checking out what's inside and we'll also be checking out gameplay footage on original hardware. So without further ado, let's get started. So here is the Collector's Edition of Gley, which I think is more so a limited edition. It includes a numbered card of authenticity, a manual, and a cartridge for the game that works on any Genesis or Mega Drive console. And here we are breaking the seal of the game. Unfortunately, the sticker on the back which tells you of the content is part of the seal, and that can't be salvaged. But that really isn't a big deal, as there's a lot of cool content inside the collection as it is. There is an outer cover here which is kind of sparkly, and that also has the title and some images of the game from cinematic sequences on the back of it as well. As we go to remove that, we have the game in a regular Mega Drive style case, complete with a hanger tab, and some lovely artwork here, which is the same as the outer sleeve. And I will also say that the inlay for this cartridge is reversible as well, with some cool art on the other side, which you could use instead if you wanted. And I really think that either side of the inlay's artwork looks really good, and I think this is an excellent addition for collector's editions, limited editions, and things like that, and it's an inclusion which I really like. Looking at some of the other inclusions on this collector's edition, we have the Certificate of Authenticity. Here we have the limited production number 3083 of 5000. At the time of this video, this product is still in stock at Strictly Limited Games, so if you want to pick up a copy, you may still be able to do so. Now we're going to take a look at the manual included, which is a color booklet which includes the information about the game in both English and in Japanese, which are the languages that this game supports. It has the story, it has a little information about the ship, and it has some information about the characters and how to control and how to play the game as well. And I always find this information really handy. I won't go over every single page in the booklet right here, and if you wanted to, you could pause and take a look at some of those pages at your leisure, but we're going to move on and take a look at the game cartridge itself, which comes in a see-through red for this release. It looks really nice, and I really do enjoy the colorization separating this from a regular release, so you know you are getting a special release in this instance. The cartridge contacts, as you can see, appear properly rounded, which means there's less risk of damaging the cartridge or your console upon inserting the game. So here you have it. This is what is included in this release, with the box, the certificate, the booklet, and the game itself. I'm really excited to give this game a go, and with that said, let's take a look at the game of Gley. I will say that I found this game very engaging and played it to completion when initially intending to record only a portion for this unboxing. As such, I'll be giving the game a full review here. When playing, I played it on NTSC mode, which leads me to compatibility. Now as we move on to gameplay, let's look at a compatibility comparison for this release. Most Mega Drive games are functionally region free, and this is no exception, so it should work on any Mega Drive or Genesis console. Though depending on your region, there may be some caveats with this experience. Fortunately, I have a region modified Mega Drive, so I can discuss the differences between PAL, NTSC and JNTSC with this cartridge on original hardware. This game does work on PAL consoles, and it will play in English as it would on an American Genesis. The speed for PAL display will be adjusted though, and it is noticeable. And it's kind of funny that on PAL, the intro music track stops before the intro fully plays out. The game is still perfectly playable like this, but I think this release was intended for NTSC speed, which is what I captured the main gameplay footage using. The game will appear in English on American NTSC consoles. On a Japanese console, it'll display Japanese text in the cinematic sequences like the intro when in JNTSC mode, but otherwise the game text and menu remains in English. I also tested this game out on my Retro Freak, and it worked, which is good news since some of these modern re-releases don't work with systems like that. So if you don't have original hardware and you have something like a Retron 5, this game should still work on that. Getting back to original hardware however, let's look at the game's features. Firstly, this game is very accessible with 3 difficulty options from easy, normal and hard. Secondly, you have the option to turn the story on or off if you want a strictly arcade style experience, which is useful for quick replays. You can also turn auto fire on and off, which I can see the merit of since you pretty much want to be always firing. It'll rest your digit and let you concentrate on moving. You can also adjust your craft speed, which you can also do in-game as well. There's some extra audio test options which are cool to listen to the music, and finally you can alter the buttons to your liking. So now let's discuss the controls and features outside the options menu. The game is designed for the 3-button controller. Button A adjusts your speed. You will need to speed up against certain boss battles, particularly towards the end, where you may need to dive under and past bosses or dodge their projectiles. Button B fires. You'll pretty much be holding this the entire game unless you've enabled auto. And finally, button C is used with the gunner attachments. It is used to move and lock the extra gunners in place. Speaking of these attachments, you have multiple options for how to position and reposition them, and you can change between retries. Normal moves the attachments in the direction you move, and the C button locks them in place. Reverse, as it suggests, has the attachments move away from the direction you travel, and C locks them in place. Search mode has the attachments automatically aim at targets. C can adjust this. This mode is somewhat unreliable, especially in stages where you need to clear obstacles in front of you as you move, but it's good for a beginner since it shows the direction of enemies coming on screen. Multi and multi-reverse work in a similar fashion to normal and normal reverse, but the attack is more spread out. Shadow has the attachments mimic your movement, with C locking the position. And finally, Roll has the attachments spiral around your ship, hitting out in all directions with C locking them in place. There are a bunch of different attachments, and you can have up to 2 of them at once. Some of them are more powerful shots with different spreads, and some of them are more short-ranged. And one mode is able to ricochet off walls. Regardless of what you choose, you lose your upgrades if you get hit, and one hit takes you out. However, you do have a number of continues to take up the action from midway points throughout the levels, and if you run out of continues you can always retry the level you are on from the beginning. I found this game incredibly engaging, and whilst intending to record a bit of gameplay for this unboxing, I found myself playing through the whole game entirely to completion, getting the good ending by saving the main character Lucia's father's ship from the enemy on the way. In that vein, the story of this game sees our character Lucia steal an experimental ship in order to save her father from behind enemy lines. This was my first time playing this game and it was a blast. The original release was only released in Japan and can be hard to find in my area, so I'm really glad I picked this up. The gameplay you are seeing is my first time playing the game, and I played it using NTSC settings on a region modded Mega Drive. Since it was my first time playing, I thought it'd be best to go in easy mode, and I used auto for the attachments, which worked well except for when there were obstacles obstructing your path, since the attachments always aimed at a singular enemy and not always where I wanted them to go. I think for sure the normal placement mode would be better when you know what you are doing, but I'm glad the automatic function is there when you don't already know where enemy ships will appear. With that said, I found the game very accessible and incredibly fun, with just the right amount of challenge to make you obsessively retry to defeat bosses and move on to the end, without the game feeling too frustrating. I always felt like I wanted to learn the boss's patterns to know where to be, where I could fight back. And the joyful experience made what was meant to be recording a snippet of gameplay into a full playthrough, which I thoroughly enjoyed. The game took me around 2 hours on a first try, most of which was spent retrying levels to go against bosses another time, and I'm sure it could be done in under an hour with more practice. But there's a good amount of game time on offer depending on your experience. Even when you have to replay levels, it didn't feel bad, since all of the stages looked amazing and have their own unique feel. So even after multiple attempts, I was still eager to play on. The sound of blasting will stick in my mind, along with the epic tunes that this game employed throughout, from the cinematic opening and action-packed first stages, to a grand finale and a satisfying conclusion. At the time of recording this video, there is still stock of this game at Strictly Limited Games, and I can't recommend it enough if you are a fan of the shoot 'em up genre. You can't go wrong here. And there you have it, that was my unboxing and review of Gley on the Mega Drive and Genesis. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like or a comment to let me know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe for more epic content. And if you'd like to, you can also support me on Patreon or YouTube channel membership. Thank you for watching, I've been MVL, and I will catch you next time.